Back to the order of business. Right now we are going to hear from some of our very own. First we are going to hear from Governor Cox, then we're going to hear from Speaker Brad Wilson, then we're going to hear from Senate President Stuart Adams, and then our Lieutenant Governor Diedre Henderson. Governor Cox.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I guess we're using this one. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It's so great to have my good friend Governor DeSantis with us from the great state of Florida, or Utah of the Southeast, as he said. There's a couple things I just want to share with you briefly this morning. First of all, several months ago, I asked all of you to pray for water. And we were mocked for that, but let me just tell you that there were two miracles that occurred. The first miracle was not the incredible snow and rain that we received. The first miracle was that the people of the state of Utah conserved 10 billion gallons of water. That is the first miracle. The second miracle was this incredible record-shattering snowfall that we've received. And I want to thank you for taking your time to volunteer, to fill sandbags, to help our neighbors. That is the Utah way. Thank you for praying. Thank you for showing your faith through your works. It's a powerful combination, works and faith. Now, we just finished a legislative session, an incredible 45-day legislative session. Will you please join me in giving our legislators a round of applause? Now, if I could describe this legislative session in just a couple words or phrases, it would be this: empowering parents and protecting children and families. That's what we accomplished. Now, before I became governor, the largest tax cut in our state's history was $225 million. My first year as governor, we cut $100 million in taxes. My second year, $200 million, and this year, over $800 million in tax cuts. Number two, this legislative session, we were able to obtain record funding for education and became one of the first states in the country to empower families with school choice. Number three, we passed some of the most comprehensive abortion reform in our state's history. We believe in protecting life, all life. In Utah, we value life. Now, you see, we understand here that our unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness do not come from government. They come from on high. We, the people, hold the power, and government is formed to protect those rights. Unfortunately, too many in Washington, D.C. do not understand that. Now, I've lost track of the number of lawsuits that we have filed with Attorney General Reyes against the current administration, but I will tell you, we are leading the fight against ESG. Utah is at the forefront. Number two, we are not going to allow the Biden administration to shut down our power plants and impact our grid. And number three, when this administration attempted to remove members of the National Guard who had not gotten the COVID vaccine, I led fellow Republican governors to push back, and we got that rule repealed. So our National Guardsmen can continue to serve. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, let me end here. Research has shown that there are 4 components to true happiness. Those 4 components are this: faith, family, friendships, and work that serve other people. We understand that here in the state of Utah more than anywhere else. We should be the happiest people on earth. I am a conservative Republican. I'm proud to represent you, and I'm here to say I'm not angry about it. We are so happy. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your sacrifice. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Governor Cox. Please welcome to the stage current House Speaker Brad Wilson.
Hey everyone, thank you. Thank you for being here. Good morning. I am honored to be with you today, and I want to thank you for all that you do and have done to stand up for conservative values and to ensure that Utah stays red, and also for providing a model so that Florida can be the Utah of the Southeast. Don't we want to do that, right? So, hey, just for a second, I'd like all of you to think about one word that would describe the state of our country today. There was a recent poll that found that the most common responses to that question were divided, conflicted, chaos, and mess. And I would like to know what has happened to words like freedom, hope, optimism, and opportunity. Unfortunately, 2,000 miles to the east of us is a place that is far more interested in playing politics than solving problems. DC's model of distraction and inaction has spread like wildfire across these 50 supposedly United States. And while Washington focuses on social and political issues that are threatening our individual liberty and our economic prosperity, Utah, in a very different way, is looking to the future with an eye of optimism. Here in our state, we remain rooted in who we are, rooted in conservative values of hard work, sacrifice, and personal responsibility. These are things that DC could learn from the Beehive State. President Biden's recently released budget includes $4.7 trillion, that is with a T, in new taxes. I agree. And that tax hike comes on top of Washington's skyrocketing spending, out-of-control money printing policies, and recklessly rising interest rates. And all of us here in this state, hardworking Utahns, are paying the price. Here in Utah, we know that the secret to a strong and family-friendly economy is to allow you to keep more of your hard-earned money in your pocket instead of in government coffers. And to that extent, the Republicans in the House and Senate just cut your taxes again. We cut your income taxes. We cut your gas taxes. We increased the tax credit for seniors on Social Security. We doubled the dependent exemption. In the last 5 years, we have cut your taxes over $1 billion. Other states are not doing that, with just a few exceptions. If DC does not understand that tax dollars belong to the people, Utah will show them. You know, there are few things that are more important than our children. And who knows our children best? Well, it is definitely not DC. And in fact, it is not government at all. Parents should choose the school and the education path that best fits their child. And that's why Utah just became the first state in the country to pass school choice legislation with a supermajority vote. You know, our students and teachers in Utah are among the best in the nation, and we know it. And we will provide our kids with a remarkable education. But if DC doesn't understand its place out of the classroom, Utah will show them. You know, let's talk about something else. DC sits back and gawks at claims of election fraud and conspiracy, while on the other hand, Utah acts. We know that without safe and secure elections, that democracy stands at risk. And while Utah has some of the safest and most reliable elections in the nation, it does not mean that we can turn a blind eye. We cannot turn a blind eye to rare opportunities for improvement. So after this legislative session, with bills we've passed, an audit will occur after every election cycle. If DC's not going to act on election integrity, Utah will show them. Fellow Republicans, democracy is a series of choices. And as Republicans, we have tough choices to make. We have argued with each other, we've talked over one another, and we've fought with one another. But that tactic, we all know it is ending now. The Republican Party, we are more than that. We are stepping up. We are coming together. As conservative Utahns, we know what it takes to keep America moving forward. Our results prove it. Our potential is unlimited. Our future is bright in this state, and I would not trade places with any other state in this nation. I am proud to be a Republican, and I am even more proud to be a lifelong Utahn. Utah, Republicans, and America do not need more DC. And that, in part, is why I'm actually exploring a run for the U.S. Senate. Washington needs to be more like Utah. Thank you for being here. Thank you for keeping Utah red. Have a great day.
Thank you, Speaker Wilson. Next to the stage, we have our current President of the Senate, Mr. Stuart Adams.
Isn't it great to live in Utah? Don't you love Governor DeSantis? It was great to be here with him. But, you know, even Governor DeSantis, he knows who's the best state in the nation. What state is that? Utah. And it's not great because of us elected officials. We do a lot of things. You've heard about all the regulatory policy and the tax policy we put in place. But Utah is great because of the citizens. Utah is great because of the delegates. Utah is great because of your service. Thank you for your service, and thank you for being here today. It's great to be with you, and it's great to be here in this with great conservative members and delegates. I appreciate you taking the time to serve. You know, Governor DeSantis talked about COVID. We manage our affairs well in Utah. Back in 2020, it's hard to remember what things were going on in 2020, but we shut down basically our state. Speaker Wilson and I did something that that we've never done in the history of the state of Utah. We called ourselves back into special session. We put together a committee to actually figure out COVID. We did something that we led the nation. We opened up our businesses May 1, 2020. We were the first state in the nation to open up our restaurants, gyms. We opened up non-emergency medical care. We had people sitting at home having appendicitis with ruptured appendicitis, not knowing whether they had to go to the doctor or not. We opened up our economy May 1, 2020. And then there was a poll done. University of Illinois did a poll. They looked at what state managed their affairs well during COVID. They looked at three metrics: education, the economy, and they looked at not only the economy, they looked at the medical care. Our case fatality rate in Utah was 0.00495. We were one of the lowest states in the nation. They looked at our economy. Our economy, again, is one of the best economies in the nation, and they looked at how we handled our kids' education. Our kids had less problems because they stayed in-person education. We led the nation on all three metrics. It's great to be in Utah. Now, 2 weeks ago, what happened? We had, again, another good conservative group of economists look at, and they do every year, rich states, poor states, look at what state leads the nation every year. They look at all 50 states, which state has the best economic outlook. Economists like Steve Moore, Art Laffer. Art Laffer helped President Reagan with his tax cuts, and he helped President Trump with his tax cut, and Jonathan Williams. They looked at all 50 states. Which state did they pick has the best economic outlook? Utah, you're right. For Utah, but not only Utah, but for the 16th year in a row, it was Utah. Attorney General Reyes thinks we ought to put 16 banners in the rotunda to show 16 years of Utah leading the nation with economic outlook. What does that do for Utah? What does it mean for Utah? You've heard of tax cuts. In 2021, we announced the 2021 legislative session would be the year of the tax cut. It was. In 2022, we announced 2022 would be the year of the tax cut again, and it was. In 2023, we announced 2023 would be the year of the tax cut again and again and again, and it was. And I think 2024 ought to be the year of the tax cut again and again and again. What do you think? What does that, again, having the strongest economy do for the state of Utah? Not only did we cut taxes, but we funded education at 18% increase to the WPU, $1.275 million being spent on education, $2 billion being spent on infrastructure. We are the fastest growing state in the nation. The last census, Utah was the fastest growing state of all 50 states. People are leaving California, as Governor DeSantis said, they're coming to Utah. But we need to fund our infrastructure, $2 billion of infrastructure, record spending on housing, record spending on water. We are going to fix our water problems, and we're going to lead the nation. It's great to be in Utah. I want to thank you for your service, and I want to thank you for allowing me to serve. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you, President. We've lost our mics. There we go. Thank you, President Adams. We'd like to welcome to the stage our Lieutenant Governor, Diedre Henderson.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name is Diedre Henderson. I'm Utah's Lieutenant Governor. For the past 28 months, I've had the distinct honor of serving side by side with Governor Spencer Cox. By the way, yesterday I actually served as governor of the state for 87 minutes while Governor Cox underwent a little minor surgical procedure. On an unrelated note, don't forget to get your colonoscopies scheduled, everyone. The Cox-Henderson administration has been very busy doing what we said we would do, cutting business regulations, eliminating government barriers to opportunity, cutting taxes, protecting Second Amendment rights, increasing parental choice in education, elevating teachers, and preserving economic prosperity for all the people of Utah. And in doing this, we've traveled to every single county in the state multiple times. Not only are we working hard to empower the freedom and prosperity of Utahns and plan for future growth of our state so our families can thrive, but we also have made historic strides to address problems such as domestic violence, working with legislators to fund victim services and provide law enforcement the tools that they need to prevent domestic violence homicides. As a former state senator, now someone in the executive branch, I've seen the benefit of conservative principles everywhere I've gone around this state. I'm a Republican because I was raised to believe that the GOP's principles of limited government and personal responsibility are the best way to preserve the freedom and opportunity that we so cherish. This is a deeply held belief that goes back generations in my family. My great-grandfather, who was a staunch Republican, was served as president pro tem of the Idaho State Senate back throughout the 1940s. 80 years ago, in 1943, he wrote a list of his government 10 commandments. Now, these are the values that he lived by and he governed by. These are the values that he held dearly and that were passed down to his oldest daughter, who was my grandmother, and her oldest daughter, who was my mother, and her oldest daughter, which is me. And I want to share a few of them with you. You cannot bring about prosperity by discouraging thrift. You cannot lift small men by bringing down big ones. You cannot strengthen the weak by weakening the strong. You cannot help the poor by destroying the rich. You cannot lift the wage earner by pulling down the wage payer. You cannot keep out of trouble by spending more than your income. You cannot further the brotherhood of man by inciting class hatred. You cannot build character and courage by taking away a man's initiative and independence. You cannot help men permanently by doing for them what they could and should do for themselves. These principles of my great-grandfathers are principles that I have lived by. They are the bedrock of the Republican Party. They were 80 years ago when he wrote them, and they are today. And they are the key to safeguarding the institutions of freedom and preserving the liberty, opportunity, and economic prosperity that we desire for all Utahns. Thank you.